Well, polls tell us that people are very concerned about inflation, and specifically, they don't have a lot of confidence in the Biden administration's ability to deal with it. At the same time, we heard from President Biden earlier this week. He didn't have any new policies, but he emphasized a lot of policies he's already adopted, raising the question, is it the policies or is it the way they're being communicated to us? We turn to now somebody who really knows about communicating policies. He's Doug Heye. He's a fellow at the Institute of Politics at Harvard's Kennedy School. Mr. Heye earlier served as communications director for the Republican National Committee and as deputy chief of staff for Eric Cantor when Mr. Cantor was House Majority Leader. So, Doug, great to have you back with us. You've been
That's
in the
a long
center
way to say I'm old.
No, not as old as I am, Doug. Trust me. But you've been in the center of this, I'm sure. Whether is it the policy, is it the communication? Because you were responsible for communicating. What is the right answer right now for this administration?
Yeah, look, it's both. It's a time-honored practice in Washington that when things aren't going wrong, you blame the communicators. And there'll be meetings in the White House on Capitol Hill. This is true of Republicans and Democrats, where somebody will start talking about we need some Madison Avenue marketing approaches, which is always a sign that things are going bad. And the reality for Biden is he has tough policies that he's facing, and there's not a lot that a president can do on inflation. But also they're talking about this in a really bad way that's not really getting through to the American people on inflation. We were told last year that this was transitory. Now we're being told that gas prices are higher because of Vladimir Putin. And these aren't things that are registering with the American people who want real answers and want a sign from this administration that they understand what Americans are going through every day, whether we're talking about gas prices, food prices, baby formula. I was at a Capitol Hill press conference today where Republicans were talking about that. They want some answers, and they want to hear from this administration in ways that they get it, and they're not able to do so right now.
We've got midterms coming up in November that you know very well about, Doug. Is the die largely cast at this point? Is the best hope for the Democrats that things turn around? Because they could. Supply chain issues could start to resolve themselves. It could get better.
It can get better. Gosh, we sure hope it won't get worse, which was interesting with the inflation numbers that we saw yesterday. But by and large, the dynamics for the congressional races are in place, and it looks to be a good Republican year. I was with a member of Congress earlier today, Virginia Fox, who said we shouldn't put numbers on what Republicans expect to pick up, because if we say we're going to win 40 seats, but we only win 38, now all of a sudden it's been a disappointing election. We should take this like Bull Durham does at the end of Bull Durham, when Tim Robbins says we're going to take this one day at a time, and good Lord willing, we'll be successful. That's the right messaging for Republicans, trying to put numbers on this. 30 seats, 40 seats. Newt Gingrich is talking about 70 to 80 seats. Really sets up Republicans for failure if they don't achieve those big numbers. Have a big win and declare whatever you do a big win after you do it.
So talk about the Republican side of this. Is it enough for them to lie back and just take shots at the Democrats? Does it resound at all with the American people when we hear from the Democrats, including the President of the United States, Republicans, you don't have a plan, or if you do, he keeps trotting out the Rick Scott plan. It's a pretty bad plan.
Yeah. Look, he's trying to create something, Biden is, for Republicans where Democrats can rally and run against. It's why we see him talking about MAGA and MAGA kings and ultra MAGA now. Well, the reality for Republicans is they don't need to have a lot of meat on the bones politically or policy-wise to communicate in this election. Being anti-Biden, with Biden's numbers being where they are enough. But they should be talking about these issues like baby formula, like inflation, like higher education that are really registering with and primary education, for that matter, that are registering with voters. When I was at the RNC, David, in 2010, our magic number for Obama was 46. We felt that if he was at or below that we'd take back the House. Obviously, Joe Biden's numbers are well below that, and it's why when we see 60% or more of the country feels that we're moving in the wrong direction, that Biden's in some very, very tough waters right now. But Republicans, ultimately, their fallback is they'll talk about some policy, but everything pivots back to where Joe Biden is and why he's not popular.
Doug, I'm really glad you raised baby formula, because I have to say I'm not of an age that I have to worry about baby formula, but it has become all of a sudden something that snuck up, at least on me, as a big issue. The president says now he's going to be talking with the manufacturers, and you actually had Mitch McConnell today saying, boy, you guys were asleep at the switch. What happened there?
I don't think we know yet. And so I was at this press conference on the House side on Capitol Hill today. It's an issue as a single guy. I clearly do not understand this issue intimately. But you talk to parents. Patrick McHenry's congressman from North Carolina who has a newborn. He understands this issue on a day-to-day basis because it's what he deals with. And where Republicans can do well and need to do better, and Democrats as well for that matter, is communicating to people about what they deal with every day in their lives, and that you understand what they're going through, you feel it as well. well, and you're seeing it every day. And when politicians can talk about that on an individual level, it's one of the things that Joe Biden traditionally has done very well. That's where they can have success in showing voters that you understand what they deal with, not just talking about policies and ideas that have a disconnect in their lives.
That sounds so obvious, Doug, for those of us who haven't done what you've done. It must be more difficult than it looks, because we hear that repeatedly and people fall afoul of it repeatedly. You can go back in history and you can talk about Hillary Clinton and her race just falling out of touch with the ordinary Americans. Why is it so hard?
Well, it's hard because we deal with policies all day on Capitol Hill and less on politics, believe it or not. So when Bill Clinton said, "I feel your pain," it registered with voters because they were feeling pain, and they wanted Washington that wasn't technocratic and dealing with issues, but dealing with people's lives and what they deal with every day just to make life work and life affordable for them. And so when Republicans or Democrats talk about supply chain issues, that doesn't register for voters. When they talk about baby formula and empty shelves and, if we're talking a year and a half ago, toilet paper and paper towels, that's what voters deal with every day, and that's what they want to hear answers to, and that even if you don't have the answers, that you understand what the questions are.